Welcome to Talking Horses Sunday edition, the final Sunday of 2024. I'm Maggie Wolfendale. Pleased to be alongside Jonathan Kinchin and JK. How were your holidays?
They were good. I ate a
Good.
lot of food. Went to Saratoga.
Yeah.
A lot of food. It's this they eat. These
They eat.
Italians.
Yeah, they
get
do.
after it.
Because don't you have to have like fish on
Yeah,
Christmas Eve?
the 7 fishes on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And
Did
then
you
it's-
eat all 7 fishes?
Oh yeah, we got after it. Yeah.
Nice.
Throughout the
nice.
day.
Yeah. I was in English mode, but luckily my brother-in-law is a very, very good cook.
That helps.
Yeah.
It helps. It
Yeah.
definitely helps.
So as we have the Queens County, it's a feature today. Looking forward to talking about that. Some scratches, but still, we'll see if Law Professor can get back to winning it from. I felt like you can't really say 2 years ago, but I guess you do because they changed the date of it. It used to be in the beginning of January, so he won it in January of 23.
Yeah. That checks out.
Yeah, so 2 years. About. Anyway, if you want to play along with us, make sure you do so with your Naira Bets a card, because Flavia and Pratt says so. If you're not a member, sign up today and use that promo code bonus200 when you head on over to nairabets.com and get that deposit match. And then you can check out all the track stats where you can get the track trend stats and all the betting insights. And thanks to Matthew DeSantis and a little Andy Serling as well. Visit nairabets.com for that. Pick 6 carryover of nearly 26,000, which does start in race number 4 today. And we have that cross country pick 5. Hopefully, it looks sunny as of now over at Oaklawn. So they will be running today. And we kick things off in race number 6. And we'll include 2 races from Hot Springs. And you can catch all that action on America's Day at the races with coverage starting at 2:30 on FS1. Well, we'll get right into it. A depleted field here. It was a small field to begin with. In race 1, optional allowance here for the fillies and mares going a mile. Take out Ocean Gateway. Take out Collie Magic, which takes out all the speed, JK. Does that affect the favorite in here? Ain't Broke.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely makes it a little bit of an obstacle, but there's not a lot of other horses in here that I felt like were necessarily going to be able to take advantage of that situation. I mean, obviously,
Could Tough Street?
Yeah, Tough Street could,
Yeah.
but Tough Street hasn't always. And
Right.
I worry that Tough Street, even when Tough Street makes the front, the paces are never all that quick. I just feel like Ain't Broke is going to just be connected enough to be able to take advantage of this depleted field.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like she reacts a little bit to like the kickback when you begin a race, Ain't Broke. And then when she's got it outside, that's when she really kicks it into gear. And she's been undefeated when racing on Lasix for Linda Rice. So, and last time in the Garland of Roses, I thought a good effort behind Can't Hurry Love, who was able to wire the field that day.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And I think you could also give an excuse in the Garland of Roses that maybe Ain't Broke needed that race, right?
Absolutely.
Hadn't been off or hadn't run since May, and now shows back up. So it just felt like one of those situations where if Manny has some brilliant ride where he pops away from there, opens up by 5, then Tough Street I think will be tough to beat.
Yeah.
But it projects as one of those where Ain't Broke's going to be close enough to be able to run past Tough Street late.
All right, 4s are wild in race number 1. Race 2, main special weight for the older New York bred horses in here, going the 6.5 furlongs. And we'll start by talking about Humstinger in here, who is actually stepping up in class after a really game performance first time out.
Yeah, I thought this horse ran well, right? After breaking slow. Anytime a horse breaks slow, kind of rushes up, finds himself on the lead, I always give that performance, regardless of the outcome, a little bit of an upgrade. An even bigger upgrade when they stick around after that, making that move within a race. Because you got to think that everyone's dealing with the same pace. And so if a horse makes a middle move in the middle of the race, they really did use a lot more energy at that portion than everyone else in the field. So I thought this horse ran extremely well last time, drawn towards the outside. I just thought would be a little overbet in here.
And, too, he was doing it from the inside, so taking all that pressure. And, I mean, if my notes are anything to go on, I didn't think he looked 100% fit for this effort, and he ran like a horse that was fit, or if that was him at 90%, he does look to take that step forward. But I agree with you, possibly overbet in here. You went to number 5, Vitalize, one of 2 Dave Donk horses in here, as we'll take a look back at his start, what is that, 2 back? No, last start. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, so he's one that there's a couple of reasons. I thought he ran well there. I thought he broke slowly, and then he kind of got rushed up into that spot. But the thing I liked about him is on debut for Dave Donk, who does not win a lot first time out. This horse was like 5-1 into the teeth of a Todd Pletcher and a George Weaver horse earlier this year. So there was always some talent there for a horse for Dave to get bet first out like this. Then he found himself on the turf for a couple of starts where he didn't embarrass himself in those spots, and then finally got back to the dirt last time. This is more of a maiden special weight snob play. I just horses that have been running in maiden special weight races that have been competitive. I always look to them rather than a horse like Humstinger who ran well for a tag, because I think sometimes running well for a tag it looks better than it actually was because the horse is behind you or in front of you.
My problem is last time when switching back to the dirt, and I thought he did look more turf meant. I don't love that field, and he was 20-1 in there. Not that this is a group of killers by any means, but that was kind of my gripe with him. Where, and as you and I both, we hate playing the jockey game, and Lane rode him last time. But Manny Franco goes to Dave's other horse, who is actually who I put on top here. And you talk about taking some money. I thought he took some nibbles, in that race up at Saratoga. Nunzio, I forget who was favored in there. Didn't run well, but there was a prohibitive favorite in there, and Nunzio was able to get the job done. He wasn't that quick away, and he was just in tight, in and amongst horses, behind horses. He had to steady a bit going around the turn, and he just never recovered. Maybe something happened, hence the layoff, and I want to give this horse another shot in here, Leo's Reward. So that's where I landed. And then you have the complete wild card down on the rail with Ami Island, who goes first out for Dave Duggan, who's having a tremendous winter, comes back as a gelding, but trying the turf for the first time for his first start against New York. Dirt, excuse me.
Yeah, I wrote down toss really large here because for me, not only did the horse make 3 starts on the turf at Santa Anita for Owen Hardy, if you look deeper in the workouts, he even worked this horse on the Tapeta, and they have that inner track Tapeta. Like this horse was avoiding dirt at all costs in California, right. And so I just felt like this is a get started point for Dave Duggan. There's no turf to run on here, so let's just give him a run around here and see what happens.
Yeah, and looking at the pedigree, he is by Nyquist, who is a fine influence for getting to the dirt. The dam only won on turf, but weirdly, her lone dirt try was a second, defeated by a head with a 90 buyer. Now, 6 of 9 foals have won, and they're more turf inclined, but they do handle the dirt. It's actually a lot of horses that have run in the Middle East, in Dubai. So, that's tough to kind of gauge where they stack up. So I'm interested, but I don't want to take at a really short price in here. And I'm mainly interested just because Dave Duggan, I feel like everything he sends out is just live.
Yeah, no, he's been winning at a very nice clip. And look, it's the horse. Possibly Owen Hardy got it wrong. That's also possible. Good trainers get things wrong.
He did win the Remsing.
Absolutely.
With a horse who was undefeated on the turf.
Yeah, so maybe this horse will run well here. I'll take a shot that he won't, but if he wins, I'm not going to bang my head against the desk.
All right. Race number 3, maiden 40 for the State Breds, this time for the 2-year-old fillies, going a mile. And we will first, let's talk about the drop downs in here. And that's a 3 and the 5. They look to be the 2 horses to beat. You went against with a horse who's run fast. But let's talk about higher force with Horacio de Paz. That's who I went to. I thought this was a horse that, especially if you watch her last start, just crying out for a pair of blinkers, because she was in and amongst rivals, and she just seemed to be a bit intimidated. And then once she got clear, and I know she was beaten 13 lengths, you could just see her level off a little bit more. And I do think that a bit more ground is going to benefit her with those blinkers on. But she's going to have to chase and catch her stablemate, Austin Roberta, who does look to be loose.
Well, I think good horse playing is not marrying yourself to an opinion. I didn't really like the 5, but you said 3 things there that I trust your opinion on that make me elevate the horse a little bit. Because my biggest thing was the horse had no speed. The drop helps.
I get that.
But it's going to be a short price, but the drop helps. But if you feel like more distance is better, and you feel like the horse needed blinkers, then maybe this horse will be a little bit closer and could be problematic. So with that information, I would probably move the 5 up a little bit. But I was more of sometimes I always start with maiden special weights, and if I can fall in love with one that's dropping into a maiden claimer, then I have no problem singling or being aggressive in that situation. I didn't fall in love with the droppers here, so I ended up landing on Awesome Roberta because she just feels like one of those even types where if you look at her speed figures, she's just kind of running the same race all the way through. I think those horses stretch out well, and I was thinking Kendrick will be aggressive. Her ratio's got 2, so he'll send one away from there, and I felt like this is the one he'll send away from there. It's not a warm and fuzzy pick. It's just where I landed.
Yeah, this one named, I just kind of caught this, for the owner, Anthony, his mom, Awesome Roberta. So, yeah, and look, she could just really wire this field. That's a serious possibility because the other drop down, as you mentioned, number 3, Giant at Work, really has no speed. For Christophe Clement, first-time starter, did not take much money, relatively speaking. Though Christophe, he doesn't often do this, maiden special weight to maiden claiming drop. In their second starts on the dirt, he's 2 for 7 with a positive ROI. I don't know. You know, she just looks slow, right? Debuting at a mile first time out, that screams, I'm really slow and a plotter.
Yeah, and just the figure didn't come back that quick, and
yeah.
And the drop and Christoph will take a little bit of money. I ended up just kind of going away from that one. I just thought the 3 and the 5 were going to take money. I thought there was an opportunity to kind of spice up the early pick 5.
Race 4, non-2 life for 16, going a mile, and we both land on the same horse in here. It does feel like Big Rich. He could, in a race that does not feature any confirmed speeds, I thought he could find himself on the front end, and I just think this is the logical spot for a horse that was able to get the job done and responded nicely when dropping for a tag for the first time. Jeremiah is being aggressive with this horse, and I think we can count on Kendrick seizing the bull by the horns and being aggressive with this guy, considering there's not much other speed in here.
Yeah, and this is also the first leg of that pick 6, the carryover. And so I was going to try to get away with just using the 3 and 5 in here and the 5 scratch. The 3 Big Rich, a lot of times at this level, this non-winner's a 2 for 16. One of the things I look at first is who's been banging their head at this level and not getting it done, because what's different today? And there's a lot of them that have been at this level that haven't got it done, including like the 7 Deputy Connect, who's 7 times in a row has run non-winners of 16. What was wide now? Is it going to be different?
And especially for Linda.
Yeah.
I mean, who wins these types of races? And
exactly.
He can't.
So that's why I defaulted to the 3, just because, I mean, I don't love the race that the horse comes out of. Like, I thought the pace fell apart, and this horse kind of took advantage of it after breaking slow. But with the 5 gone, too, I just don't know where else you go. I guess the 8, Wine Responsibility, who's getting back to 16 after trying 25 last time. But the 16 wasn't, a couple starts back, wasn't overly, like impressive. And that was for Linda, And so that one didn't.
Don't know.
Yeah, that was tough too.
To be a slippery slope, that one. Wine Responsibly. Gum Island, yeah, it's the other Linda racehorse in here, but he's coming in off of a layoff after 2 dismal performances for Linda. So it's really hard to make him feel trustworthy.
Yeah,
I don't know how. I can't see past Big Rich in here.
I can't either. And it's the type of horse that just if I singled and got beat in the first leg, I'd be like, oh, why'd I single this horse?
I know, and a non-2 for 16.
But I just don't know where else to go. Like, I mean, I have the 8 pick second, and I don't trust that horse at all. I scratched him. Now it makes me feel gross having him second because I think I had him 3rd before the scratch of the 5. Yeah, I mean, it might just be one of those situations where you just got to kind of lean on Big Rich.
Yep. As we will take a look here at race number 5 and then take a quick break. But this is a maiden optional allowance. Going 7 furlongs for the 2-year-old fillies. And let's start down on the rail with the Safi Joseph runner early on, who looks, sometimes it's hard to see, where these horses stack up, heading into this race. But I feel like these are typically easier than those New York bred maiden special weights.
Yeah, well, first of all, it ain't cheap to get a horse from Palm Meadows up here.
Well, exactly.
So I think the fact that Safi decided, look, I'm going to take this horse up here. We're going to run in this New York bred spot. This horse probably doesn't feel good enough to win down in Florida. And so he shows up here. You look at the two speed figures this horse earned up at Saratoga this summer. This horse is a standout with this group. And then you have the improvement with age from the summer of a 2-year-old year until, basically January of the 3-year-old year. There's going to be a little bit of a jump there with maturity. The only other option in here was like maybe this was maybe the 7, but that horse didn't do much running last time, so I thought Manny on the rail, aggressive. Who else would you want in that situation? And I just went with the 1.
I took a stab here with Tail of the Tail just because she would be a better price, and I just thought that maybe she needed a race. Rob Atras horses, they do tend to be that way, though his barn isn't firing as lethally as they sometimes do. And she just seemed a bit green as well throughout the running. So I thought, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and take a better price. She did take money in that 9-horse field that day because I think both of us don't want to take the horses that have been running in this condition. And that includes Gaga's Handsome, who I'm so sorry about that name, as well as Melancia, and who else was coming out of there? Yagi Nicole. So, yes, Gaga's Handsome runs the best behind Central Casting this day, but got an ideal type of trip too. But I just don't think these horses are as good as the horses that are coming in from those New York bred maiden special weights.
Yeah, I mean, Gaga's Handsome's last 3 races don't beat any of the races that we've seen from early on. So that was an easy one for me to kind of work away from. And, and it's, I think circumstances have a lot to do with these lifetime maidens or horses that are on maiden streaks of, this horse is over 4, he's been trying to, I'm usually not as hard on him because you can usually make excuses. But this horse is single digits in 3 starts and just, it's just not quite getting there. Seems like one that just might not want to do it very much.
We have a couple, too, that are switching from turf to dirt in their Contract Law and Midnight Love Affair, shorter price here on that Bruce Levine horse, making her 2nd start. And, I thought just kind of needed that start against open maiden special weights. Huge price that day. Is half to Kitten's Appeal, who Bruce also trained, who's a decent dirt sprinter. So
I don't have a lot of rules. Because I think the rules can be restrictive in terms of seeing something creative. But I do have a rule that I won't bet a horse who is 100 to 1 or more the time before. if no one could think of anything nice about contract law to say.
Oh, yeah, I don't like that one.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
I know. Because it's so difficult. I mean, why was there anything to,
That's like, there's nothing that makes you feel good to let a horse go off at 100 to 1 this day and age.
Though they do sometimes win.
Yeah.
Remember that one day with Bruce Brown and Betrill?
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I do
she
believe
was like
that
101 to 1.
That's crazy. It doesn't happen very much anymore.
No.
I call it like the mind that bird effect.
Yeah.
Like people just don't let horses go off at that prices anymore.
No, they don't. Well, that'll do it for the first 5, 2 legs in to that pick 6. But JK and I will be right back after this brief message.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. As JK and I are taking you through this Sunday card, as we'll take a look here at race number 6, kicks off a late pick 4. It is a starter allowance, and let's start the discussion, JK, with number 2, Backstretch Rose, who looks to be the favorite in here. You know, she's been consistent, consistent and consistently somewhat faster than many of her competition today.
Yeah, I thought she ran extremely well last time, and you know, kind of second time with Jorge. He's adding the blinkers. When I have in my brain who I think is really good, whether it's trainers, whether it's percentages, whether it's my feel, whatever it is, and when they make a change and they're in they're very good category, I give the horse a significant bump up. Backstretch Rose is one of those. I think Jorge does a tremendous job. He's adding blinkers. That I assume that's going to help the horse. I don't get too caught up in the stats of things at times because I think sometimes it can confuse you. I just think that this horse is better than these other horses. I think the horse is going to take another step forward, second off of a break. And I think starter allowance races, to me, are some of the most formful races because the horses qualify when they were one animal, and then they're turned into another animal, and they have a huge edge against the others.
And 2, it's hard to believe as we just watched that replay that, you know, it wasn't a dead heat. It was a very close race in the end, and she was definitely flattered when Elliptic came back, who's on a tear as well, and won again with an 80 buyer. So she's definitely the horse to beat in here. I'm going to go a little bit off the reservation with number 1, Dazzy. I liked her last time because, like, Jamie Ness has crazy stats. I mean, it's crazy stats for a lot of things, but crazy, like almost 40% with horses off of a win, stretching them out. And she just was, because she was stretching out, she got quite headstrong down the backside, check the whole way. And I always say, I think it wastes so much more energy than just letting them, you know, find their stride. And then she was just never clear down the stretch. So I want to give her another shot going a mile today. I just thought after that trouble, but look, I totally get that Backstretch Rose is much the horse to beat, but do they all have to catch Enigmatic, who, as she's kind of come back off that bit of a freshening, she hasn't been able to seal the deal. And I know they went kind of quick last time, but why didn't she get to the lead?
Yeah, I mean, she's one of those horses where she looks on paper like she could take advantage of getting loose in here, but there's 3 times prior to her last start she got loose and she got caught.
Right.
Not kind of caught. She got caught in all 3 of those situations. So it just makes me wonder how badly she wants to not let horses pass her.
Right.
I think she's comfortable to get out there and cruise, and then when they come to her, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, well, go ahead then. You guys can take it.
She also wears that extension blinker. I always wonder if, okay, it might help her from not getting out, but she can't see anybody, so she can't like be like, oh, let me chase them until they're already past her.
Yeah.
Anyway, all about Backstretch Rose, going to try to upset with Dazzy. But race number 7, and this one affected a bit by scratches, but still an interesting race, I thought, as we'll take... let's not take a look at anybody. They both scratched. But let's first start by talking about the Bill Mott training number 10 Classic Legacy in here. I put him on top. You're a bit against him.
Yeah, well, it changed. Sometimes when we do scratches,
Yeah.
you have that idea what the race is going to look like, and then so you have your picks, and then the scratches come and it like changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the 10 probably is a little bit more. I'd be a little bit more friendly without having Reddington. I liked Reddington a lot from the inside. Yeah, I mean, I thought this, regardless, was the most wide open race in the sequence for the pick 6. I felt like I would have needed 1, 2, 4, 8, 10, 11, maybe even the 9. I thought this race was wide open. The 10, I don't mind. I do think it makes a lot more sense with the scratches, but like I said, I think this is a wide open race.
It does. Some of the scratches, you know, kind of affected maybe, well, not really. They didn't really affect the pace that much, to be fair.
I thought Monday Morning Quarterback would be aggressive from that spot with the pace figures in that 7 furlong race at Laurel last time. Felt like they would go, and I also thought Reddington would have to at least be asked away from there to a certain extent. That could kind of speed it up to a certain just to keep it at least honest.
And Richwood runner,
right?
Yeah. I thought Classic Legacy, in hindsight, probably moved a little bit early, and we saw Bank Frenzy just loop and swoop the field, and he certainly came back and flattered that last race, winning yesterday in the Alex M. Robb with 94 buyers. So I've always liked this horse. I like him going the 7 furlongs. I always thought erring on the shorter side of things would benefit him. But we'll take a look here at your horse, number 4, Awesome Native, who does come out of a race that I think features some talented runners, and the race before featured some talented runners. So he's been in good company, and he's been close. There's been some trainer changes with every start. So
Sometimes I appreciate when there's a lot of changes and the horse still kind of runs okay.
Yeah, I feel
Like, it makes me feel like, okay, well, at least the horse himself has something to him. I thought maybe getting back to the distance was going to help a little bit. I wanted to kind of forgive the last race and look more to what he was doing in the summer. I thought he ran well at Saratoga, and that even though he was trying to close into a slow pace. And I thought that he would get a little ignored in here, too. I don't know what's going to happen now price-wise with Reddington out, but I thought he'd get a little ignored. I thought I'd get better than 4-1. So, like I said, this is one of those races where someone has to end up on top. But if you told me to pick between the 4 and the 8, I would absolutely refuse from a multi-race standpoint. I need the 4, I need the 8, I need the 10, I need the 11. I need them all, and they all feel very similar to me.
I don't, yeah, okay, but Otello on form isn't necessarily that similar because he's getting some changes. And this is a horse that, is coming to the tail end of his 3-year-old year, facing older horses for the first time, but arguably getting back to what he's always wanted to do, and that's run around one turn.
Absolutely. I mean, this horse's early part of his career, you start thinking, Derby. You start thinking Derby, and you get caught up in that, and you try the Holy Bull. That doesn't work out. You try the Jeff Ruby Stakes. It's kind of a last-ditch effort to get in. And then, you kind of give him a little bit of a freshening, try to run him again in June, and then say, let's just start over. Let's go back to the drawing board. And I think that now that he's back to the drawing board, he gets to try Lasix for the first time because he was running in all those stakes prior. I think he's going to run well in here. He has to take a step forward from a figure standpoint, but he should, because the last time he was earning real figures, it was as a 2-year-old or early in his 3-year-old year.
And looking at him, the first time I actually saw him was for the Pegasus, and he's one of those Curlins that's not the big lumbering type of Curlin. He's quite small, quite compact, and as a physical, despite that pedigree, he's a lot more handy looking. So I think turning him back makes a lot of sense in here, and he's a real interesting proposition in this 7 furlong contest. As race number 8, it is our feature, the Queens County Mile and an 8th. And when this race was drawn, a lot of other horses then subsequently were entered in other races. So that's what we're seeing. Hence, the scratch is not. I don't think Mazmak was. Was he entered somewhere else? I think he was just a legit scratch. But everybody else that came out were entered in other spots. But I like Law Professor before the proposed scratches, and I like him still here as he looks to defend his Queens County win from, as I said, nearly 2 years ago. And I really like this comeback effort as we take a look at it now. And I know there's been another gap, but he was entered in a race, and they came out and immediately said, no, we're just going to wait for the Queens County.
Yeah, in full disclosure, I had the Mazmak, the one, I had it 1-7, but I scratched in with the 7. I don't have a problem with that, especially the way the field kind of has been diminished. One thing I like about Law Professor that makes me feel good and leaning on him in the sequence is that he always works out his trip. Like, he doesn't need, when he wins, It's not like it had to fall apart or he had to get loose. Like, he grinds out, finds his spot, gets in position, and makes it easier on Kendrick in terms of what he needs to be able to win. And for some of these other ones, I just don't. I trust him just a tad bit more. Yeah,
he just shows up. Now, Tabawatch, he doesn't always win, but he shows up. So I think that's why we have him second. He's just, with the defections in here, he just feels like, yeah, he's the most likely horse to run second. He's another one that's not necessarily affected by pace. He looks to actually have the same sort of trip that we see Law Professor having. I just don't think he's quite as good.
It's funny. Like, I think that we both kind of said the same thing about Law Professor. He finds his own trip. He always shows up. I don't think the 11 can win unless Law Professor doesn't show up. But we both just said that we feel like Law Professor always shows up. That's why I kind of just default to, like, I think he's going to show up. I'm not going to talk anyone off the 11 if you don't believe Law Professor is going to show up. But I do think if you think Law Professor is showing up, I don't think he's getting beat in here. It's as simple as that.
Guys, I completely messed up my picks. Not that it matters because this is a very depleted field. I meant to put the 4 in third. I did the whole reading the odds thing.
I do that all the time.
All the time.
Do you do
mean,
that?
it has been my toxic trait when it comes to doing numbers.
I've never met anyone else that does it. It makes
Oh,
me
thank God.
I do it all
We
the
need to go
time.
there.
Like, I'm like, yeah, like the 4. So if you don't know what we're talking about, if I will look at the 4 horse and I will see the horse's 6 to 1 and I will say
put
6.
the 6. Exactly.
I do that. I do it.
Thank God, I'm not the only one. Yes. All right. So that's supposed to be 7-11, 4-3 for me. Phileas Fogg coming in off a bit of a break, off the back of 2 wins here, JK, but on tracks that really aided horses that were doing what he's doing.
I don't have anything else. That's 100% how I felt about it. Last
Yeah,
time
but he
was
could
the
be-
time.
I mean, he could be loose in here, and who knows what the track will be as it's sloppy again.
It's just one of those deals, though. It feels like Law Professor is going to be breathing down, even if he does get loose.
Absolutely.
If he does get loose and they're not going very quickly, a better horse is going to be sitting right outside of him, not going very quickly either.
Yeah. Race number 9 to close it all out is a maiden 30 for the state bred fillies. 6 furlongs. I feel like this race kind of comes down to 2 in here, and that is the 2 and 11. Obviously, there's been some scratches in here, but Miss Uproar, if you look at her dirt races, which were when she was a early 3-year-old, they make her pretty tough, and they were against Open Company at Tampa and Monmouth. And I respect the job that Fernando Abreu does, and I want to give her. I gave her the edge, and really it's not that big of an edge over the 2 in here. Better Be Smart, who is another one returning from the turf to the dirt.
Yeah, I don't. It's funny. I agree with all those things. The one other thing I'll add about the 11 Miss Uproar, and I really like the 2 a lot here, but I'm just adding to your point with the 11, is when those dirt numbers were earned based on, I think this is a better horse now based on that turf race last time being like a lifetime best. So the horse is just doing better now. And so if you know the horse can handle the dirt because they ran well enough on the dirt, you got to think those races are a little bit faster now on the dirt. So I completely agree.
Yeah.
I just like the 2 quite a bit. Just because I thought those 2 dirt debuts, the horse was bet in those races, in those maiden special weights. The horse ran well in those maiden special weights. And I just felt like, the last 2 tries on the turf were fine enough, and now you're getting back to the dirt. I feel like this horse could run like a 60 type of buyer on the dirt, and I thought that'd be good enough.
Yeah, I mean, the only other horse in here, I guess, is the horse we have third, and that's Naughty Destiny. Does add the blinkers, third off the claim for Bill Morey. It's just, there's only 1 dirt race, and it's the worst of any.
Yeah, when there's kind of like these kind of cagey, sharp claiming types, and they claim a horse, and they have 2 opportunities to move them up, and they don't move them up, I feel like the second, I'll give them 2. But after that, I feel like now they're just kind of guessing.
Right.
And I didn't think either one of those 2 performances were particularly like a move up from what we saw out of this horse with Christoph. And another thing, too, is when there's when a good trainer like Christoph continues to run the horse on the turf, you don't think he thought about maybe trying the dirt at some point?
Yeah.
I just don't think the horse – and then the horse runs on the dirt, doesn't run well. I just don't think this –
the proof is there.
But I don't know who else to take. Like
No,
you said, it's not a great race outside of those.
Yeah, exactly. There's first-time starter, but 1 good Raison Détat. He's actually has weirdly like good stats in a lot of areas except first-time starters.
I'm trying to. Who had that horse? I'm trying to remember Raison Détat.
He was in the Middle East for a long time. Yeah. I think it was Bill Mott at first.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that.
I
can find it.
Let's do a little research here on Talking Horses.
Yeah, well, you could do the whole goodbye thing if you want, and I'll
the whole what?
You could do the goodbye thing, and I'll.
Okay,
it'll
let's roll
be
the slates.
It'll be our going away present. It'll be our going. Going away
his
present.
computer. But Naira Bet's the only way to play the races here at Aqueduct and anywhere from around the world. And new members, they do earn that $200 deposit match bonus when they use promo code BONUS200. Make sure you check out NairaBets.com. And then you can get the ball rolling with some track stats and bet smarter and win bigger with all the angles there at NairaBets.com, of course. It's like the only place you want to go. And then you can play the pick six because we do have a carryover of nearly 26,000. It does begin in race 4 today. We also have the cross country pick 5 starting in race number 6 here at Aqueduct, and includes 2 races from Oaklawn as they look to have quite a nice day. Their track's drying out there as we have the live feed from their training session, and it'll round out in the Queens County. And slate earlier was wrong. We do begin on some Fox show.
Just you'll find
I think it's FS1 at 3 o'clock for America's Day at the Races. And
Bill Mott, claim to fame is the second in the curling. And then an allowance race at Saratoga. He never really even.
but didn't he go to the Middle East?
Oh, I'm sure over there he probably. I only have the U.S. stuff here, so maybe he.
Oh,
went there
you're
and
on some.
Yeah.
I don't
some-
even know. Oh,
it's a
this is
crazy.
it.
Yeah,
okay,
it's a crazy.
Okay.
I'm on some. Yeah. So
I do remember my Bill Mott horses.
there you go.
I mean, there's like a
a
select
good
few of
memory.
us that are huge Bill Mott fan club people. I'm one of them. Anyway, that'll do it for this edition of Talking Horses. Chris Griffin, also thank you for filling in for the impromptu Talking Horses yesterday. He'll be up next, well, in a bit, with a reprise of the scratches and changes. And thanks for joining us here on Talking Horses.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.